All right, so what are we going to do today? Well, this is Fido. This is one of my vehicles that isn't an MR2. I know, based on what you guys have seen so far, it looks like all I own is MR2s, but I'm very much a fan of cars that are good, really good at one thing. And this thing is fantastic at off-roading. But there's a problem with it, and there's a problem with it we're going to fix today, and I think it'd be easiest to just let you guys listen to it. Yeah. So that sounded like a belt squeak, right? Turns out it isn't. I'm pretty sure it's coming from the clutch. And yeah, let's get it in the shop. So this is part of my addiction. I love vehicles that are good at what they do. In fact, so good at what they do that they're actually kind of terrible at other things. Fido out there, that's an example. It doesn't even have any differentials because I built it to be just good at off-roading. If you don't have all the tire pressures exactly the same, it struggles to do a straight line down the road. And going around a corner, if you don't do it just right, it'll squeak a tire on you. And the same thing with the race car. It's really good at what it does, but would you want to daily this thing? Hell, it's got no interior. It's loud as hell in there. Driving it around for more than 10 minutes without earplugs just gets annoying. But I tell you what, you open that thing up on the track and there's no better fun. So let's discuss what the issue is. First of all, what you have to understand is this vehicle, manual transmission. You probably already heard it when I was grinding the gears, and that and off-roading can present a bit of an extra challenge. Especially when you're at steep angles and whatnot. But frankly, this thing drives fine. What it doesn't deal well with is this thing's been in mud pretty deep, and mud gets into the bell housing. So I suspect the pressure plate looks like hell. I suspect the clutch disc probably has a lot of foreign damage in there, you know, some rocks grinded in there and mud and whatnot. I don't know. We'll see. I haven't pulled it apart yet. But what I think is making the squeak is right here. There's one of two choices. The first choice is this guy right here. This is the throwout bearing. It is sealed, but water can get in this over time. And keep in mind, this thing's last had a clutch job. You know, I think I did a clutch job right when I first bought it, and I bought it in this year right here. And it's been that many years, so it's been a long time. The other choice that it could be, and again, thankfully we're going in there, is the pilot bearing. Though I don't think this is going to squeak that much, and since the noise comes on and off based on when I'm on or off the clutch, I think it's this guy. And it makes the noise changes even if I just gently apply, not enough to change the RPM at the input shaft. So I'm pretty sure it's this, but I made sure to get a clutch kit that has everything in it so that we can replace all of it, because I'm sure all of it's been underwater and none of it's going to be happy. I've had this thing before where the clutch disc was actually fused to the pressure plate or the flywheel just because it had sat in water, and I unfortunately forgot to drive it. When you put a manual transmission in water, you should drive it for a little bit after to dry everything out. And what happened is the wetness got in there, rusted it together, and it was fun to get the two disengaged without pulling the transmission. So, yeah, for the second time ever, let's drop this transmission. And it's been too long for me to remember what the tricks were, but I don't remember it being that difficult. So let's get you guys under there. so that was pretty much exactly what I expected. The pilot bearing, I mean, there's no part of this that rotates anymore. It's just the balls are kind of half cocked in there. I don't know if there's supposed to be a plastic carrier of some kind, or if it's supposed to be a full complement of balls and there's just some missing. But overall, I'm actually really surprised that the inside here is not caked in mud, given what I've done to the vehicle. But no, it looks pretty good. There's a little bit, just the shaft is polished here, like the bearing was spinning, but I can't really feel it. So usually it takes about 0.02 to be able to feel something. So if it's under 0.02, I'm perfectly happy with that. So we have to fix this and then clean everything up and reassemble. And while we're in here, given the kind of vehicle this is, I'm going to strip the electrical stuff here. This thing doesn't have reverse lights anyways, and I don't really care if there's a four-wheel drive or a low-range indicator on the dash. I've got a stick, and that stick is more than enough of an indicator, so I'm just going to remove some of this electrical stuff. So, but first, let's see if we can get this stud out. And for that, we're going to use Nippics. All right, well, that was a lot less work than I expected. So let's see if we got a bolt to replace it. All right, well, it's a suspension bolt from the Scion TC that we took apart. Same thread, same size, and the correct length. So, problem solved. All right, let's clean this up. So this stuff ended up making some really terrible CV grease, but it's pretty water resistant, so I think it'll be a good thing to use here. And I'm certainly not going to use it in CVs, so might as well find a use for it. These double lip seals can hold some grit in between them, so it's always a good idea to clean that. All right, let's go take a look at the clutch. That bearing definitely needs replacement, but it's still spinning. So look at that cute little flywheel. All right, so what did we find under there? Well, all right, well, that was out of frame, but there's a whole bunch of mud that came out of this. So here's our pressure plate, and you can see there's some significant wear on the fingers. And if you look on the other side, you can see the heat discoloration. This was definitely what was making the noise. So this should be fixed. And honestly, this disc doesn't look as bad as I expected. So I went and double checked. I've had this thing for 9 years, and the clutch was one of the first things I did when I bought it, because basically it wouldn't hold a gear. But as you can see, I think I've put like 30-ish thousand miles. Yeah, about 30,000 miles on this thing in 9 years. And yeah, I used to when the weather's good, I actually daily this thing when it was running right. So I'm looking forward to doing that again. But yeah, as you can see, you know, we're not wearing this thing out, but this thing's got a bunch of mud packed into it and everything. But you know what? It never really slipped. This thing's got 55 horses from the factory, and that goes a long way towards explaining kind of what I was talking about. Like this thing here, if this thing was a multi-purpose vehicle, it would probably need more than 55 horsepower. This thing struggles on the highway. It's comically bad. You have to get behind a semi and draft to be able to get to 60 miles an hour. Otherwise, 50 maybe. I think a lot of the horses have left. It started with 55, but I think it's got a lot less. But, you know, It's great at off-roading. You put it in low range and it just keeps going. And if this thing had more power, like, could you imagine how much damage this grit would do to the clutch? As it is, it doesn't really matter. Now, yeah, would it be nice to have a little bit more power when I hit the sand? Yeah, I mean, this thing can do wheel spins in first gear, low range, and that's it. So, yeah, it'd be nice if it had a little bit more power. 70, 80, 90. But I wouldn't want more than that in this thing. So don't worry, this thing's not getting a 2GR swap anytime soon. In fact, if this motor ever dies, I'll probably look for some kind of Toyota 3-cylinder in that 70 to 90 horsepower range, because that's really all this thing needs. And I don't know, actually, this thing would probably do well with a diesel, actually, but with all the hate that's going on with diesels right now, I'm not sure that's really the right thing to do. As far as emissions goes. So, yeah. Anyways, things ready to go back in now, I suppose. It's hot out here. I think it's showing up in the sweat here, but it's over 85 degrees outside, and in the shop it's even warmer. So I'm gonna go take a quick break, and then I'm gonna come back and put the transmission back in. So see you guys in a second. All right, well, it's hot and sticky, and I'm glad I'm done. The damage was exactly what I thought it was. It was this bearing here had kind of given up the ghost. Actually, looking at it closer, it looks like the whole plastic sleeve on the inside here might be missing also, or maybe this particular design doesn't have it, but either way, it's definitely not supposed to be in two pieces. The only other damage we ran into was that one stuck fastener. And again, Nipix came to the rescue on that. Right, we had to cut it off, but then the leftover of the stud, this took off real easy. So why don't you guys come with me for a quick test drive? Oh, whoops, we're in low range. That's all right, the front hubs are disconnected. It's not the end of the world. Stop, and there you go, high range. Foot to the floor acceleration. that got any tire squeak is because of the ratcheting locker. So what's going on there is the drive shaft sets the minimum speed for the tires. So when you're going around a corner, you get pushed by the inside tire. So if you're trying to accelerate real hard and you get, weight shift, the inside tire will spin a little bit, but only enough to make it go as fast as the outside tire. So that's why you're just hearing that little All right, everyone. You guys have a good one. We'll see you guys in the next video.